Welcome to Men Making a Difference, PGSAO men who inspire and motivate.
Hello, Michael. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so excited. Your interview was one I was really looking forward to because I really wanted to introduce you to the residents of Prince George's County. Oftentimes they get to see me as the elected state's attorney, but I have some amazing people in my office doing great things, great work. Usually they know about what the prosecutors do, but you play a very unique and vital role in our office. So can you tell the viewers what your role is?
As the Chief Demonstrative Evidence Coordinator, essentially, of support staff work as it relates to demonstrative evidence, that is my job. I'm tasked with being the Chief of the Demonstrative Evidence Unit. I am considered by the county as a audiovisual specialist too. And so with that title, I essentially are providing support for graphics and audiovisual products for the state's attorney's office.
Tell us how your role works along with the main function of our office, which is our prosecution work. Talk about how the role you play is so vital to that work that we do.
And that is the main function of the state's attorney's office, is to prosecute cases, from the probably misdemeanor cases to the probably most horrific criminal cases, perhaps. So my job specifically would be for support and in support of the casework and the caseloads that is processed throughout the state's attorney's office. And what we're doing is we're actually producing and supporting these attorneys as they take their court and prepare their cases, take their cases to court and prepare their juries to show their cases to their juries.
So can you talk a little bit more specifically about what type of work product you produce for these cases? Because I think people, nowadays, juries, their expectations are a little different than in the past because you have so much, audio and visual evidence, and the expectations of our jurors are pretty high, right? And so the work that you do really does help. So can you talk about maybe even talk about a case and talk about the kind of evidence support that you provided?
Okay, so yes, the juries are very informed these days, as everyone is informed with social media and the aspects of media in general, and news and information moves very quickly. The work that we produce is specific to evidence, most importantly. And a lot of the evidence is handled in the courtroom, but we are actually supporting the attorneys as they're preparing the evidence in the process of discovering the evidence and turning it over to the defense attorneys, whoever's assigned to the cases. So it's not just always in the courtroom. However, in the courtroom, we could be producing boards and graphics for a map. We could be presenting and enlarging photographic exhibits that need to be enlarged so that the juries can see them. We could be handling media files and audio video files that would be surveillance evidence. It could be audio files, 911 calls, that type of stuff. We're not handling the evidence in the courtroom, but what we're doing is supporting the attorneys so that when they go to court, they're prepared and we help them work with their strategies and their skill level to be able to go to court and tell that story in the courtroom without any hiccups. So what we try to do is help them plan for how to best present their evidence and what they can expect might go wrong so that they can overcome it right in front of the jury, the judge, and everyone else that's watching in the courtroom.
I saw you at one point. I've seen you in a few different trials, but one of the, most well-known trials that we had in our courthouse last year was a trial against a defendant named Sean Urbanski, who was the individual who we convicted of killing now First Lieutenant Richard Collins III. there was a lot of visual evidence in that case. So can you tell us about your work in helping to prepare the attorneys to present that case?
And so our work is mostly involved in support and working directly with the attorneys, the prosecuting attorneys, as they're preparing their cases to go to trial. That particular case, of course, did have a lot of video footage. So what we did hands-on was able to take certain video component files and clip them so that when we go to court and publish them in court, we would only show the timelines that would actually show beyond a reasonable doubt the evidence that was put on in court. So that was a key component of the support that was provided, was to be able to provide specific, let's just say, technical support to be able to have specific evidence ready to be able to publish on the spot in the courtroom.
Right, because oftentimes you have a lot of video, and so it could be hours of video, but there are only certain relevant parts of the video that the attorneys would need to show. Now, certainly we, as our office, turns over everything to defense, so every piece of the video is available to defense, but it wouldn't be a good use of the court's time to show hours of video where oftentimes nothing is going on, or at least nothing relevant is going on. So having that support where you do clip it, certainly we don't clip it in a way that would be suggestive of anything other than what actually happened. But the shorter clips helps to walk the jury through what happened that day without having them to watch hours and hours of dead time sometimes. So the work that you do is really great. And in that case, I think that because we had so much video, the video really showed the defendant's state of mind and his ability to reason, because that was part of the defense, right? And so so that video really showed just the opposite, which is what, our case in chief stated. So it was really powerful, that video image, that evidence was really powerful. And so certainly the work that you all do really does, make our job, well, I'm not saying it's any easier, but it does supplement the work that the attorneys do. And so we can't really do it without you, because oftentimes visual evidence is what juries want to see. And so we do really appreciate the work that you do for our office. So what motivates you to work in a state's attorney's office? Because someone with your skill set could work almost anywhere. So why have you chosen to work for the state's attorney's office?
Well, my motivation is specifically because I am a graphic artist. I have a BFA in visual communications. So specifically what that means is that I am a visual communicator. I learned basically taking visual messages and written messages and putting them together as a graphic artist. But the challenge is working in the state's attorney's office is now I bring in another set of skill levels where I'm using technology. I'm actually using training where I'm actually supporting the attorneys and training them on some best practices. It could be handling evidence, or it could be how to best tell a story in a courtroom. So the given I think passion about what I do is to solve problems, and to solve problems in a system or a process that begins with analyzing what you're dealing with from the beginning. In other words, I generally would ask an attorney, tell me a little bit about the case, not the whole case. I don't need to know your whole strategy, but just give me a facet of what this case is about so that we can begin to start to formulate what my support for visuals and technological support would require for you to be able to completely tell your story, the truth and honest story in the courtroom, so the jury can see what the state's position is on this truth in this case. And so the most successful cases are the attorneys that work directly with me, and we go back and forth with our team to directly be able to set a path to what that vision looks like before we go to court.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, obviously technology is changing. So tell me, what are some of the challenges and also opportunities that you see for the unit that you oversee?
The biggest challenge, I think, these days is technology. And with working within county government, it's also the partners that we share evidence with and share information with. Their agencies also have to change. So everybody's changing. A lot of things is in the cloud now. There's a lot of need for multilateral partnerships in this whole process of sharing files and delivering files back and forth as it happens, even with the defense attorneys, you know. Right now, at this point, one of the biggest challenges is really trying to grow our unit so that we can continue to expand digitally, our digital footprint and our footprint perhaps in the cloud, and to be able to continue to provide the support services for discovery and all of the other things that help us build our cases and support our process of starting a case from the beginning of this process of when it's charged to, you know, the final day of the closing arguments in the case or the sentencing in the case. So the biggest thing for me is that we get to do that, and we get to have a better support for our agency, the money coming from the government to be able to provide that support so that we can have a lot of the problems that we have technologically solved, so that we can continue to store evidence, retrieve it quickly, and to be able to process evidence as we need to on an ongoing basis and get it to the courtroom, where the courtroom actually has better technology. They have really good technology right now, but technology constantly changes. So
Absolutely.
Courtrooms likely would begin to bring in newer or upgraded technologies based on the needs. So it's constantly changing, and that's the most exciting thing about working in the state's attorney's office, is that my day is constantly exciting every day.
Wow. Yeah, no, I know it's very exciting. And it's interesting and challenging and all of those things. So I know that even though you work on the technology end, you're also, you know, invested in these cases too. And we deal with very difficult cases. Like you said, I mean, at the district court level, maybe you deal with some more minor offenses, but in the circuit court cases, you're dealing with, you know, murders, you're dealing with rapes, you're dealing with child abuse, domestic violence. So I know that those cases are, they impact our attorneys, they impact our victim witness coordinators, and I suspect they also impact you, because even if you don't necessarily interface with the families, you're often in the courtroom, you know the case very, very well. So how does this job impact you?
It's very impactful for me. I don't have problems anymore where I'm dreaming about certain aspects of certain cases. There was a time in the beginning where, you know, I wasn't uncomfortable, but things would remain in my memory. And I would see things days later that I will recall. And I think that's normal when you don't work in this work relationship with critical evidence and many times disturbing evidence. But the most exciting part of it for me is that I know I get to affect change in a positive way, where I can support attorneys who are very passionate about their cases and fighting for the victims of crime, and the judicial process to be able to give justice to or find justice in these cases that are very important cases for our county and for the citizens and the families. Knowing that I can support some very passionate people who are fighting to the end to tell the truth, the full truth, and get the full extent of justice, I think is the most valuable thing that I can say that I can be involved with in participating in this process in the state's attorney's office. And it's a joy, it's a passion. We're family, so there's no real uncomfortable work necessarily on an average. There are a lot of difficulties and challenges, but for the most part, we have fun doing it. I think at the end of the day, you can say we've had some fun and we overcame a lot of challenges many times. So
Absolutely.
it's exciting.
It is exciting. So do you have any like parting thoughts or any advice to give to anyone who's thinking about, working in, law enforcement or a prosecutor's office in a non-traditional role?
Only that demonstrative evidence is a big word. A lot of people say, well, what is that? What do you do? I work in demonstrative evidence. And what that really means is that what we do is we help people tell stories in courtrooms. As demonstrative evidence technicians, what our goal is, whatever we support the attorneys with to take to court, that it allows something to happen. And that is, it allows their witnesses to help. It allows their witnesses to tell their story, or it assists them and enhances them with the necessary graphics or visuals or audio or visuals that will help that witness testify. So at the end of the day, if we do the work and it goes to court and someone can't identify something, then it's probably not as useful as when we know what we've created. The person would go to court and identify and help them testify and tell their story. Just like the map is over my shoulder, that map could actually end up with 5 or 6 points that was pointed out in the courtroom to actually tell the story of what happened with that particular map. And so the exciting part is that knowing that my work actually allows the witnesses and helps the witnesses testify to tell their story to the juries, and so that the juries can understand, those facts in the cases. Many times it could be overcoming how to present evidence a certain way so that the jury sees it in the best light that the evidence was collected in. So if you have a video, and you only have certain points and parts of the video, it's necessary to clip certain points and parts of the video, perhaps bringing them all together in closing argument so that it tells a summary of the story that they saw during the trial in the end in the closing arguments. So that's a big part of what we do, is focus on that closing argument so that you can tell the powerful ending story of what this case was all about and why we're seeking justice in the case. And so when we see that happen many times, that is exciting because we see the full week's work going into a closing argument, and we get to see that the final state's case, if you will, the perspective of the state's case that's being presented in front of the jury. And that's
Absolutely. Well, look, you, again, your role here, you personally are extremely important to our office. We're all very fortunate to have you. And I'm so excited that we were able to have this discussion today. And I look forward to, at some point, having you back because as we do expand our use of technology, I think it's important to keep the public informed about everything that we're doing in our office, and you're a big part of that. So I'm really excited to have everyone get to meet you and learn a little bit about what you do. And keep up the great work. And I am so happy to work with you. So thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.